Hello and welcome to today's workshop entitled How to Break Up with Sugar. I'm Caroline Milton. I'm the owner of The Transformation Table. The Transformation Table is a health coaching business. I help women unlock the keys to achieving higher energy so that they can bring themselves more fully into their families, into their jobs, into their communities without feeling like they're completely poured out. In today's talk, there are going to be opportunities for you to respond. And so I want you to take a moment, grab a piece of paper and pencil if you don't have those in front of you already. If you need to pause the video to grab those, do so now. And when you're ready, hop right back in. The first thing I'd like you to do is to reflect a little bit on what your favorite sweet is and how sugar makes you feel. You're here today because you have a complicated relationship with sugar and with sweets. So I want you to take a moment, think about the sweet, the dessert, the one thing that you feel like you could never give up. I want you then to also write down how sugar makes you feel, not only emotionally, but also physically. So go ahead and pause the video while you do that reflection. All right, how did I end up here talking to you today about sugar? I myself have a complicated back history with sugar, but I want to let you know I eat ice cream. I eat chocolate from time to time, and I love drinking wine. And I do those things without major weight fluctuations, but it wasn't always this way. I spent a decade in a food manufacturing environment. I made a lot of the snacks that you see hilarious advertisements for during the Super Bowl. It was a delicious job. I had access to whatever treats I wanted. But then I noticed suddenly I was 20 pounds heavier. I had stopped going out with friends, and instead I stayed home. I preferred my baggy sweatpants. I preferred watching movies by myself, fantasizing about love, until I was pretty unhappy, and I'd pull a chair up to the refrigerator, scour it for whatever would fill the emotional void that I was feeling, and I'd pick out. When I'd look at myself in the mirror, I'd wonder who could possibly love me with the way that I was treating myself. Instead of the beaming smile, the radiant complexion, the creative spark that I used to feel, instead I looked dull, tired, lackluster. I felt moody, and I genuinely felt like crap most of the time. I asked myself, how did I let this happen? This is not the life of being out on my own in my first big girl job, living in the big city. This isn't what I had envisioned for myself. And I knew something had to change. And slowly I discovered this thing that changed everything for me. And at first I was skeptical. I thought, this is not the approach for me. But then I followed through in a way I never have before. I found the weight melting off my body. I wasn't having to grimace and work my way through things painfully in order to see results. I dropped 6 dress sizes. I had energy to bounce out of bed every morning. I had more clarity than I had in years. I was able to invest myself in new ways. And I got my sexy back. But most importantly, the way that I talked to myself, the way that I appreciated my body changed. No more missing out on enjoyable times with friends, making memories, because I felt like I didn't belong. People started noticing my change, and my outlook, my demeanor. They said I looked amazing, like I had completely transformed. My girlfriends wanted to know my secret to success. They saw me going to the gym, but they wanted to know what I was doing differently. One of my friends said, when I start eating, I can't stop. I had another girlfriend tell me that she had to have something sweet after a meal or it didn't feel like a complete meal. So that's why I developed a system called the Breakthrough Transformation, because I want to teach people how to kick the sugar habit without giving up sweetness in their lives. And we do that by using these exact steps that I'm going to teach you today. Now it is my goal to help you connect the dots and to show you exactly how you can do this too, no matter how far you feel you've fallen off track. So you're in the right place today if you're wondering why you crave sugar at certain times. If you're done reinventing the wheel and you want someone to tell you what works and what doesn't, for real. If you want to discover what's keeping you stuck so that you can finally get unstuck and move forward. If you're ready to finally get the sugar and food thing handled so that you can allow your best self to shine. If these describe you, then you are in exactly the right place. In fact, if this is you, it's no accident that you're here today, because I'm going to show you how to kick the sugar habit without giving up sweetness, so that you can experience a total transformation that gives you your best body, your best moods, and your best enjoyment and fulfillment of life. I respect your time. I know we have a limited amount of time together, so I'm going to teach you as much as I can about this topic today. And then I promise before we finish, I'll show you how to take it to the next level if you're ready to. Now, there are 3 main challenges that all of my clients and most people have when they go to kick sugar. The first challenge is wondering why the heck they have sugar cravings in the first place. Why those cravings feel out of control, why we feel helpless to it, and what we can do about them. So let's go ahead and solve that mystery right up front, shall we? Let's talk about why sugar becomes a craving for us in the first place. Now, traditional nutritionists think of food in terms of calories and in terms of grams of fat. As a health coach, that's one way I look at food. But there's another concept that I'd like to introduce you to, something really cool, and that's called the polarity of food. What does that mean? The concept of polarity is really pretty simple. It's based on the principle that everything has 2 polarities or extremes. For example, hot and cold are extremes of the pole called temperature. It's the same way with every apparent opposite. Hard and soft are extremes. Noisy and quiet are extremes. Light and dark, good and bad, love and fear. When you find one thing, you'll also find the potential for its opposite. So to look at the world through the lens of polarity is to look at it in terms of pairs. Dark, light, night, day, yin, yang, male, female. So how does this concept apply to food? First, we want to consider that food is more than simply fuel. I appreciate those who say food is fuel. That's true, but it's actually a little more complicated than that. Food has energetic qualities that are beyond the science and mechanics of calories, of nutrient values, of grams of fat. For example, leafy greens grow upwards, so they have a lifting energy, whereas root vegetables, like a potato or a squash, grow deep into the ground, so they have more of a grounding energy. So what does the polarity of food look like? Where does the inherent energetic quality of different foods, where do those fall on the spectrum? And how might this polarity in your food actually be creating your cravings? So on the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see one extreme of expansive bliss. Foods that represent this energy are represented in caffeine, sugar, alcohol, dairy, and to some extent, fruit. The energy of these foods make you feel light, happy, relaxed. They're blissful. But when you eat too many bliss foods, you start to feel spacey, maybe even a little bit forgetful. On the other end of the extreme are the contracted tension foods. These foods are contracting versus expansive. So examples of those foods are eggs, salt, red meat. These are the kind of foods that put meat on your bones. They make you feel grounded, focused, aggressive. But when we eat too many, we start to feel agitated, tight, maybe even a little bit angry. So that's all fine and good. They all have their place and their purpose. But how do the two extremes of the polarity of food, the expansive bliss and the contracted tension, relate to sugar cravings? If life is a system of opposites and your body is always trying to seek balance, what do you think happens if you're having too many contracted foods? Like too much salt, meat, eggs. What do you think your body might start craving to balance itself out? It's going to crave the opposite of contracted foods. It's going to crave those sweet, expansive bliss foods. Do you find that if you have something salty, for example, like potato chips, that you crave something sweet later on? That's the challenge. If we have too many contracted foods, then we'll crave the expansive. That was certainly true for me. I was eating snack chips all day long, potato chips, tortilla chips. I was eating salty foods. I was coming home and I needed sweets because I was craving the expansive. On the other end of the spectrum, if we have too many expansive foods, then we'll crave the contractive. So if you have those mid-afternoon cravings for something salty, that might be an indication that we've had too many expansive foods during our day. What many people don't realize, and I didn't realize this myself, is that we're oftentimes creating our cravings unknowingly, which, when we come to that realization, is pretty cool. We can even look at activities in your life through the lens of polarity of expansive and contractive. There are things that happen in your life that are a little more contractive. They create more tension. And then there are things that are more expansive. They create more relaxation. Examples of contractive activities are running, working too much, stress, partying, staying up too late. When you have too many contractive activities, you're going to start craving more expansive foods because you need relaxation. We're all experiencing far more stress in our day-to-day lives than the human race has ever experienced before. And so it's not surprising that we have a higher demand for expansive foods. If you don't allow yourself to relax, then you'll find yourself binging on alcohol, on chocolate, on breads, on desserts. Your body is begging for a break. It's begging to be loved. It needs sleep or meditation, walking, reading, taking a bath. If you've been driving in awful traffic, or you have a toddler who was just in a mood, or maybe you just had a really stressful day at work, what are you going to crave? You're going to crave expansive foods. And that craving is your body trying to balance itself out again. So when I'm working with clients to deconstruct their cravings, we look at not just the foods they're eating, but also their lifestyle. So, challenge number 2. The second challenge around kicking the sugar habit is that no one wants to do it because it feels so good to eat it, right? Why does it feel so dang good? Let's take a quick look at what's happening in the body when you eat sugar and why we experience that awesome sugar high. Common products that contain a lot of sugar usually don't contain lots of fiber, fat, or protein, which those are my golden 3 for slowing down sugar absorption. When those nutrients aren't present, your blood sugar shoots up really fast, like you're going to the top of a roller coaster. Now, at the top of the roller coaster, your brain is alerted. You feel great. You feel on. Your brain, it turns out, uses about 50% of your blood sugar at any given time. So any drastic rise or fall in your blood sugar levels causes your brain to flip out. So when your blood sugar spikes up, your brain and your body aren't happy. To your body, this is an emergency. So what does your body do? Your pancreas secretes the hormone insulin to bring your blood sugar back down. But here's the problem. We've spent a lifetime eating a lot of high sugar processed foods. This was popular in the 80s and the 90s. So insulin has gotten really used to doing its job very well. When insulin is sent out, it doesn't just bring your blood sugar back down into balance. There's often too much insulin secreted. It's not a perfected system in the body. And so our blood sugar dips way down. And that's the blood sugar crash you feel after the sugar high. That shaky, spaced out, uncomfortable feeling. So you've had a blood sugar crash. Now, what does your body crave when you're down there in the middle of that crash? It's going to crave more sugar. It knows how good it feels to eat sugar, and so it's going to crave more of it. And that then sends our blood sugar up, 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 back to the top of that roller coaster. And so this up and down cycle continues, and we feel like we can't break it. How does that feel? I want you to reflect on the last time you felt like you were on that crazy roller coaster experience. And just write down the way that it made you feel. This is one of the reasons we start eating sugar, and we quite literally can't stop. We crave it constantly because your body is actually trying to find blood sugar balance. So the sugar craving is your body's way of saying it needs something specific to restore this balance. The easiest and most convenient food to restore blood sugar balance when your blood sugar is in the toilet is, in fact, sugar. But if we keep eating sugar, we're going to stay on that crazy craving roller coaster. And that affects our mood, it causes weight gain, and it can lead to serious diseases like adult onset diabetes. And there's a little more to the story. After the hormone insulin is sent out to take the excess sugar out of the bloodstream, it has 3 places it can take that sugar. The first is to your brain. The second is to your blood sugar, to your blood cells. And the third is to your muscles. Now, if all of those receptors are full because you've been eating a lot of sugar already, where does that excess sugar go? Yep. It goes right to be stored as fat. Now here's yet another not so thrilling thing. When your body is producing insulin to bring you down from the sugar high, it can't produce what's called glucagon. Glucagon is very important, especially if you're trying to shed excess weight, because it's the hormone that takes fat out of storage to be burned. So if you're eating sugar, not only are you probably storing some of it as fat, you also can't release fat to be burned because the sugar blocks glucagon production and therefore fat burning. And that's a bummer for those who have a desire to change their body composition in terms of their fat percentage. Here's something else I want you to consider. These days, many health-conscious people know their blood sugar levels go up and down on a sugar-induced high, but they often don't realize the emotional sugar roller coaster ride that accompanies this. We feel happy and energetic for a while, and then suddenly, unexplainably, we find ourselves arguing with our friend or with our partner, or we're beating ourselves up in our mind, or maybe we have a short temper in a meeting at work. Our moods are all over the place. That's a bummer too. Now, the third and final challenge with sugar, and I experienced this myself, and I notice it in my clients, is that when you're not happy with an area of your life, such as your career, your relationships, your finances, your workouts, your family, where you live, the winter weather, it's sometimes so much easier to reach for sugar than to deal with what's going on. I totally get that. In fact, that is a big reason for what happened to me. I was living in a new place. I didn't have a lot of close personal friends. I was away from my family. I felt lonely. And rather than addressing those feelings of loneliness, I turned to sugar to make me feel a little less lonely. A craving may seem like a pain in the butt, but what if cravings are in fact a messenger to help you step into the best version of who you are? That would be pretty amazing. I recognize you didn't just come here for problems, you came here for solutions. So let's transition now to take a look at how to get started on kicking the sugar habit without starving or giving up sweetness, even if you've never been successful in doing it before. And you can choose to write these down, but I can also email these to you at the end of the presentation. All you'll have to do is fill out a brief form so that I can send them to your email. There are 7 solutions to sugar cravings that I want to share with you today. Number 1, check your beverages. I know this sounds crazy, but sometimes sweet cravings are a sign of dehydration. So when you feel that sweet tooth coming on, drink a glass of water. Wait a few minutes, maybe 5 minutes, and then see if you still have the craving. Also, too much caffeine mimics a blood sugar crash. You're high for a bit, but then you come crashing down and you crave sugar, of course. I had one client who told me when we started working together that she could never give up coffee. She needed 4 cups of coffee every day. And you guessed it, she also had a pretty big sweet tooth. I told her that's fine. I'm not going to ask you to change your coffee intake at all. But what I want you to do is to start your day with 20 ounces of water before you drink your coffee. That's all I told her. And then 2 weeks later, she came back to me and she said, Caroline, you'll never guess what? I'm drinking 1 cup of coffee every day now, and I don't need any more. She said, I realized I was drinking coffee because I was thirsty. And once I started drinking water in the morning, I realized that not only was I no longer thirsty throughout the day, but I also noticed my sugar cravings going away. So this is a great way to begin the transition. Solution number 2, satisfy your sweet tooth with sweet vegetables, with spices, and with fruits. Your tongue has sweet taste buds on it for a reason. Those demand to be satisfied, so don't hold out on them. Add some naturally sweet foods and spices to your diet. This could be berries, this could be sugar snap peas, maybe some cinnamon that you add in at breakfast time or any other time of the day. Solution number 3, sleep. I know, for many of us, this is easier said than done, especially if you're pregnant or if you have young kids in the household. But if you're constantly tired, your body is going to look for energy, and that'll usually be in the form of sugar or caffeine. So try to power down an hour earlier than usual and notice the change on your cravings. Solution 4, check your protein. This is a fun, cool fact. If you pay attention to how much protein and what kind of protein you're eating, especially animal protein, you may notice a shift in your cravings for sugar. Eating too little protein can lead to massive sweet cravings, but eating too much protein can also lead to sweet cravings. When I work with clients, we seek to find their sweet spot for protein intake so that they feel satisfied and they don't feel those sweet cravings constantly coming after them. Solution 5, sniff out low-fat and fat-free foods. When food manufacturers take the fat out of foods, they have to add something in for taste and to stabilize that food. And so the cheapest way to do this is with sugar. I witnessed this firsthand when I worked in the snack food industry. And I worked in an industry that made fat-free foods. There's a lot of sugar in those products, but we think, oh, no fat, it's healthy. So let's start eating the full fat version instead. It'll keep you full and it'll reduce those sugar cravings. Solution 6, move yourself. Movement is another kind of food for your body. It helps combat stress, it makes you feel great, it releases dopamine, makes you look great. You have that glow when you finish with a sweaty workout. When we don't get enough movement throughout the day, the body starts to look for other ways to blow off steam or to satisfy boredom. And that might mean turning to a Snickers bar. The last solution is to create a new post-meal ritual. So many of my clients feel like they can't end the day or end the meal without dessert. My father-in-law was a perfect example of this. And you might not realize that it's the ritual of it that you're seeking. It's the comfort of the ritual. It's not actually the food. So what are other possibilities for post-meal rituals? I want you to take a moment here and brainstorm some other things that you could do after you finish your meal that would satisfy you, that would make you feel invested in and loved, that don't involve dessert. I want to ask you now, do you feel like you're 100% confident that you could walk away from this workshop and finally kick sugar once and for all? It's okay if the answer is no, because I haven't yet touched on 3 key ingredients that put all of this together. Without these 3 ingredients, we stay in the same patterns. We repeat the same old behaviors that keep us stuck. Some of us do really well for a little while. We get new information, we renew our commitment to follow through, we take consistent action for a week, maybe 2, maybe even up to a month. We convince ourselves that this time it's going to be different, and then what happens? That motivation fizzles out, we fall off track. Because so many of us know what to do, but don't follow through in doing it. That's because knowing isn't enough. It's not what motivates us to action. We're suffering from a high-fact diet. We've got a lot of theory, but we're not applying that theory into practice. So the 3 key ingredients that bring all of this together are the right system, the right support, and the right accountability. You have information. You don't need more information. What you do need to make this time different is someone to encourage your process, someone to kick you in the hind end when you're making decisions and choices that aren't in alignment with what you want your outcome to be. You need someone to help you discover your intuition about what your body needs. And since you might not be enthusiastically ready to get off the sugar roller coaster on your own, I'd like to invite you to a free initial Kick Your Cravings session. This is a 45-minute private consultation where we'll look at what your cravings mean, why you feel stuck, how to get unstuck, and we'll develop what your plan of action is to experience a total transformation. When you invest 45 minutes of your time, I guarantee you'll walk away with at least one major aha moment about how to break out of the rut and get into action. I want to invite you to open up to the possibility that this time really can be different. You haven't tried everything yet. That even if you feel relatively healthy already, you might be missing something that could make this all better. So this is an opportunity to get curious about how healthy you can be. I had a client who came to me with severe salt cravings, weight gain, poor self-esteem. She was postmenopausal. She didn't feel sexy or strong. She felt like she was controlled by food and not that she had the power. Knowing there had to be a better way, she found me. She reached out. We worked on removing all of this toxic buildup from the inside out. We identified not only the foods, but also the lifestyle factors, the stress, the habits, the social situations which triggered inflammation in her body. Then we came up with a results-oriented solution so that she didn't feel deprived. And within 4 weeks, she had lost 10 pounds. Her energy levels were up. She no longer craved those salty foods. Her skin and complexion were clear and confident. And over the next 3 months, her entire life completely transformed, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. Most of all, she was amazed at how fun and easy it was to implement change so that she could make her results last a lifetime. What makes my program unique is that we focus on what you get to have rather than what you have to eliminate. Suffering to heal doesn't make sense at all. When I work with a client, I want to inspire you to reclaim your health in a way that is sustainable, natural, and fun. Clients tell me I'm part cheerleader and part tough love coach. I come with support and accountability. These are 2 ingredients proven to make all of the difference in the world between staying stuck and breaking out of a rut. If you're ready for the accountability, the systems, and the support that is going to make this work like nothing else you've tried before, then I invite you to a free initial Kick Your Cravings session. This is a 45-minute private consultation with me where we'll look at what your cravings mean, why you're stuck, how to get unstuck, and what your plan of action is to experience a total transformation. I guarantee you'll walk away with at least one major aha about how to break out of the rut and get into action. So here's what to do. At the end of this video, you'll have a screen to input your email address and your name. That will take you then to my calendar to book a time to speak with me virtually, one-on-one, for your free Kick the Cravings session. Pick any time on the screen that works for you. It'll be confidential, private, and again, you're going to walk away with some major clarity. So all you need to do is fill in your name, your email, and then advance to the next screen. I want to thank you so much for your time today. I hope that I've been able to give you some new information, but also some clarity on what might be missing in your effort and dedication towards kicking the sugar habit for good. Because my ideal for you is to still have sweetness in your life, but without feeling like food has control over you. So if you're ready, I invite you to advance to the next screen. Thank you so much.